Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. My name is OctoMan, and I am going through the next part of my Burntime 3D, let's say tutorial series, or more like a dev stream series over here. Thanks a lot for already these guys, which are already inside the stream. So, and before we start, I want you once again to check out down below into the description box where you can find my free PDF about how to finish your game, as well as my online courses you can actually go and get. So just check them out. Once again, all the links are going to be down below in the description. So, in the last three parts, I was explaining actually what I'm going to create over here. We actually created in the last part the possibility to interact with different items and different doors and stuff like that. And also with a merchant, we can interact with enemies if they are tagged like that, or actually do have a enemy script or something like that. And depending on our interactability, we are able to whatever we can do whatever interact does say. So we have like just one script which is handling basically everything about the interactability. Hi again, Yanni, as well, and all the other guys which are joining or currently inside the stream. So since we have like the main stuff done, I could today go and implement something like an item or something similar, where we can actually interact with as well. But I want to skip the item part for the moment because I'm gonna start today with this daytime thing and probably something about the player itself. So maybe sooner or later we need to have something like, as I explained before, like vitality. We're gonna need to design everything around the player. So we're gonna create a class which is handling all of that. Then we later on, of course, go into saving and so on. So, but for the moment, I want to make sure that everything inside this area inside part is basically done. Probably we're gonna do something like a scene handling where we are able to probably enter one of these buildings. I have some imported in the last one as well. So we are actually able to go in, do something, and probably anyhow think about how we can go out of the room, like, or outside of the building or of the scene. Once again, whenever we are inside, also how to do we represent this? Where do we position the camera? And by the way, camera movement is probably also something we should take care of before we go into that. So today I go over daytime and I guess a bit of camera movement probably, because that can be troublesome here and there as well. So maybe I'm gonna take a look into this. So we're gonna start with daytime at first. So we have a system, or we need to create a system which stores what is the current day, how long is the day running. We already, or I created a video about daytime and sun go up and down. I don't go and do this because I just want to have something like a bar, maybe here or somewhere here. It doesn't really matter. Maybe I'm gonna make this not a daytime bar but a HP bar. I can also put an HP bar down below. Once again, the design itself is not going to be so important at this point. So probably I'm gonna put like everything about the day and daytime about there. So what I do is I need first, of course, a system which is handling that and actually counts up how many days have been passed so far. So later on, when we are going to travel from one town to another town, that we have something to talk to. And to do that, we probably need to later on also do some a bit of a different handling based on the scenes over here. So in the end, I want to have something like a main scene which is going to load all the other necessary scenes. Like for example, we're gonna load this scene, then gonna load another scene and unload the scene which we have had before. So we basically keep all the basic interactabilities or the basic things like the timer and the day and so on stored in one, like, let's say, master scene. And probably that is going to be the best way today or in general, to handle multiple scenes. But we don't need to do like put everything into static variables and members and blah blah blah. So we can literally keep everything in one scene, like also about the inventory, all items, about the sounds as well. We handle all the sounds also in just that master scene. Once again, it will be something like where we again create one master scene and load and unload the next or the necessary scenes into that. We're gonna do everything which we want to do, of course, and then we leave to any other scene. So I guess you get the idea behind it. So that's what we want to maybe prepare today here as well. We can do the UI design and so on and so forth already in one of these scenes, but later on we just create a prefab or whatever and just drag this piece out into the actual corresponding scene for that. So let's do this at first. I create a UI canvas. In this canvas, I want this to be like a screen space overlay. So this is the main one over there. I want to make sure that scale with screen size is active, so it always scales with the screen size, and I don't have any issues with that. Now I want to make sure that I have like a number or text representing what is the current day, as well as a bar which is showing how long the day is. Like whenever the bar is empty, we're gonna go to the next day. And also we need the day system once again behind this. So how do I do this? At first I'm gonna create a new UI image, and this image is going to be like my bar later on, which I just go into and scale up on the axis. So if you have seen one of my super old HP bar systems, this is the same version or the same way I'm going to make use of here. So rather simple one, we just scale this on X. And later on, based on the pivot point to the left or to the right or to the center, basically it doesn't matter. It is once again another design decision over there. We're gonna make this red, so for the moment we can see this one better. We can also put something, or can also make this one black as being the BG, like the background of that, and then we duplicate this, just Control D, and make it child of it, like so. And I'm gonna make this one now red, and make this a bit smaller, so we have like a little, let's say, like a little bar around it. So maybe that doesn't really work. Let's see. I'm gonna center this out so I have like just a slide bar around it, so we can also see the slide bar around here. If it is too small, we can always go into and you know, switch things over here. What I want to do is by code later on, I want to reduce this bar to the length onto the left side. So we need to make sure that when we scale down X, you can see now it is scaling down from the center. What I want to make sure is that it is scaling down from the left. So I go to this little rect transform tool, hold down Alt, and select this guy. And now we should be able, and I believe we need to put the pivot to the right as to the left as well. So I'm gonna hold down Shift and select the same field. So pivot and anchor are going to be to the left. Then of course I need to go back and make sure that this one is centered out. Oh, just a sec. I need to go with the second one. Make sure it's like centered to its actual background over here. And now when we are going to scale X now, you can see that the bar is now filling, or actually in this case, emptying out itself to the left side. Pretty good. So that is the basic idea behind this. Also connected to the bar itself, I want to create a text field. I want to make sure that we can read later on, this is day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on and so forth. We're going to put this like anywhere here. Maybe we're going to center this one out. Maybe later on I'm going to put some fonts. This image, set image type to fill is not necessary at this point, since I want to make use the scale to the left side over here. I want just to, you know, fill this. Or do you mean like another background which can, or which represents an actual fill amount or something? Like the same image but down below? Yanni? I'm gonna make this one bold right now. I'm gonna type in something like day 1. Maybe once again I'm gonna go in a bit deeper into this here as well, like in design cases once again, but for now everything works as it should. Gonna make it best fit, and I want to make sure that it's good readable, so I'm gonna make it maybe black. Maybe gonna put this anywhere else. You can also make this one white and overlay it like so. Maybe that's not a bad one. So I'm gonna make it a bit different than to my initial idea. And there we go. So whatever the day is, we're gonna have like enough space over there to scale this one left and right and so on and so forth. Have this bold, have this best fit. Pretty good. So now we're gonna create a system which is now going to once again reduce this bar to the left, and then we switch this number like day 1 to be day 2. And then of course we need to refill this bar. Also, meanwhile we do this later on, we're gonna decrease hunger, we decrease food, like we decrease water, we decrease whatever is necessary on whenever this day has been passed so far. So we probably also, when we are having too much hunger, we probably want to reduce vitality here as well. Or if we don't have any water left, or if we don't have any food left, and so on and so forth. Okay, so to do this, I want to create a new script, of course, which is going to handle all of that timing parts. We can do this directly in some kind of a game manager if we want to. So it's basically handling like everything about the day, the food, and all the other stuff. But well, we can also separate this. So the time is going to be responsible just for its own, and then it talks to the game manager and updates everything accordingly. So maybe I'm gonna do this. So I'm gonna give maybe name this something like a daytime. So we have like a daytime system, and we're gonna connect this to probably one of our bars. I believe the background is going to be a good one. Once the compiler is done running, I drag it onto the main object, like the background. I'm gonna rename this one here to be bar. And now we open this one in Mono, Develop, Visual Studio, whatever IDE we are using, and then we can go and create everything about it. So we need to have connection to the text, we need to have a connection to the bar itself. So we can reduce it over time, as well as type in the or update the text element over there. My firewall will once again, or as always, go pop up twice now, and then we are able to put the daytime code inside over here as well. Once everything has been loaded, we want to make sure that we, at least for the moment, probably we get rid of start and update and put the timer later on into a coroutine. So it's like updating once a second or something like that. So we don't need to have that necessarily in the update loop, like running this on 60 times a second. It doesn't make sense. So we only update it once, maybe every 5 seconds. We can even do this like every 10 seconds, depends on how long our day time is going to be, and that's what we need to calculate a bit, let's say. So we can also say, okay, a game is like 10 minutes long, where like a day is 10 minutes playtime long, so we have enough time. We can also make this 5 minutes, and so on and so forth. So what we need for that is, of course, a variable which is keep on track what is the actual time, and it's going to be time in seconds. So we have the possibility to count down these seconds, and then we actually fill it up once again. So we have something like an int current time. Once again, this current time in seconds. We're gonna actually initialize that to be later on whatever the maximum time is, and this is going to be the daytime, or the max, maybe something like a maximum daytime. Max daytime is going to be something, and the something we need to pre-calculate. So depending on if we have like a day, once again, of 5 minutes, then we can calculate this rather simple. Since a 5 minutes do have seconds, of course, we're gonna multiply that by 60, and we know how many seconds 5 minutes are. In this case, as you can see, we have 300 seconds. So in the next 300 seconds, our day should go by, basically. So what we now want to do is we want to reduce or want to set the current daytime at start. So void start. At start, we want to make sure that we initialize the current time to be the max daytime. We don't necessarily have to, because we can also set this one to this one over here. It doesn't really matter. So we say current time is equal to max time, max daytime in this case. If we are doing a const, like if we are setting the max daytime to be a const, like a constant, we're gonna have the possibility to, I believe we need to put this like down below over here. Then we have the possibility to say current time is equal to max daytime over here. Because it is a constant, we can do this. So we don't necessarily have to use start over there. We don't get any errors. I'm gonna toggle that so you can see. It says something, okay, we can do something like like a bright protection, but we don't need to because it's automatically private. But now you can see with a const over here, we can set it equal to that. Otherwise, if we don't have it as a const, we cannot do this. So we're gonna keep this at 300 right now. We set it over here, so we don't need to necessarily do this in start, and we have like everything connected. If I change now this const max datetime over there, it will automatically change the current datetime as well at start, basically. So what we now want to do is we want to count down our time, and we want to have a connection to the bar itself. For that, we need to make or use of the namespace unity engine.ui, because it contains images and text elements we can talk to. And what we want to do is we want to drag our text, like the datetime text, and as well as the bar inside this over there. So in that case, we're going to have like an image. We're going to make it a public image. And we can name this something like, yeah, bar, whatever. And we're going to have a public text with a big T, and that's going to be our day text or something similar. Like so. What we now want to do is we want to create a coroutine which is going to take care of our updating the bar size as well as updating the day text whenever necessary. So in that case, we create a coroutine, i.e. numerator, something like day timer. Maybe that is, yeah, that might be okay from a naming convention. And what we want to do is now we want to every once a second we want to update the max day time. So we say, first off, we need to run this in a while loop, so it's constantly running downwards. So while true, so whenever we are starting the coroutine, we want to make sure that everything runs in a while loop over here. So meanwhile that is going to be true, we want to reduce now the current time over there. So we say current time minus minus. Before we do this, we want to yield return new, wait for seconds, in this case 1. I want to wait 1 second before I update our actual datetime, as well as later on the bar itself. So what we now want to do is once we are done with putting this current time over here to be minus minus, so we reduce it by 1, we want to update the bar size and later on also the datetime. So let's get into the bar size at first. So what we want to do is we want to set the bar dot, I believe it's called transform dot local something, local scale. So we want to now scale down on the x-axis, and what we need to do is we need to split this up because it's basically handled like a vector 3. There's 3 inputs, x, y, and z coordinate. So in this case we're going to say something like new vector 3, and now we need to split them up completely. So first I'm going to copy this and put this like everywhere. So Control V, and in here I'm going to put in an x, then Control V again, comma y, and another one over here is, or not comma, but point Z. So, but what we want to do is now, instead of taking the current one, we want to override this particular calculation once. So what we can do is we can store and calculate the length of the bar, how long it has to be, based on our max datetime and the current time. So what we need to do is now we are gonna create a new float. And we need to basically take our 2 consts or 2 integers over here, and we need to once again typecast them back into the float, into a float. Otherwise, we cannot do the correct calculation over here, because in the end we want to have a number between 0 and 1. 1 is 100%, 0 of course is 0%, 0.5 is going to be 50% length or scale overall. So, and I'm gonna name this something like calc for calculation, and I'm gonna say equal to, and once again now we typecast our first one and the second one into a float. So we say in pair of parentheses float, and now we put the value like the current time, and what we want to do is we want to divide this from, as seen also once again as a float, by our maximum time, so, or maximum daytime over here. So the maximum daytime will never change, it will always be 300, and the current time will change because of that. Okay, so what's coming out now when we are going to have like a current time of 150 and we divide this by 300, it's a 0.5. So this is going to be the scale on the x-axis in just a second. So as you can see, it's like 50% size in scale from our initial bar we have implemented. So what we now do is on x, since that is where we want to do this, we're going to put in calc. So the calculated scale, local scale in this case, or based on the current time and the max time. Okay, I'm gonna save this. And now we need to make sure that we're gonna bring back start. And instead of setting this one up here, I'm gonna start the coroutine. And in open close parentheses, I'm gonna put the day timer. Day timer. Open close parentheses once again. You can also do this with quotes, like just name the function and put everything in the quotes without the pair of parentheses. If you need to stop it later on by name, then this is the way to go. This one here is not stoppable except for or with the coding or with the line called stop all coroutines. Otherwise, we cannot directly stop day timer at this point. Good. So once again, let's recap. We set the max daytime and the current daytime at the very beginning both to 300. We are using a const to make sure we can do this already over here. We're gonna drag the bar in just a sec. And then over here, we're gonna start the coroutine, of course, which is running the whole time because of the while true loop over here. Then we're gonna wait a second and update the current time by just reducing it by 1. In this case, minus minus. Then we calculate the newly length, basically. We calculate the length in the x scale of the bar by typecasting both into floats, otherwise it doesn't work. And then we're gonna have the bar, which we wanna actually local scale on the x-axis over here by this calculated value, and we are good to go. Now what we need to do is whenever we are done with that, like when a day is completed, when current time is basically equal to 0, we want to reset that, or actually smaller than 0, because we want to maybe use the 0 as well. So we can do something like if current time is smaller, maybe smaller or smaller equal. It's basically like a protection that we are not going to be able to go into the negative ones. We want to go and set up the current time to be equal once again to the maximum daytime, in this case 300. So we always keep the same loop running all over the place. And once we are done with that, we also wanna rescale this. So probably we're gonna do the calculation part about the rescale after this, because it doesn't make sense to have it like above that. I'm gonna reorganize that in a second. And the next one is we want to make sure that we implement or increment our current day. So what we need to have is now another integer, our actual current day. We're gonna start at day 1, so I'm gonna set this here to be equal to 1. And now we say, if that is the case, if we are resetting basically, we say day or current day plus plus. So we increment this or increase that by 1. And then we'll want to also update the text over here as well. I'm gonna take this right now, like the complete scale and calculation over there, and bring this like very much down below, because that's basically the last step in our while loop. We can do this one, we can lift it up quite some bit, like so. And what we can now do is also, after we are done with the calculation and we have updated our day and so on and so forth, we want to be able to update our text field as well. So we can say day text is equal to, and now we're gonna put something like in quotes day, then we leave a space, and then we put a plus, and then the last one is going to be our actual current day, is going to be the variable we want to see at the very end. So it's updating like every time, like every once a second. If you don't want to do this like every second, like overwrite the text, because it's not really necessary, we can also put this like inside this loop over there. And probably we need to initially set this if we haven't done this correctly, like gonna copy this, like after we are, for example, starting the coroutine, just in case to have something inside if we forgot to do this and so on. Good. And that should be it. And I'm gonna test this now with just 10 seconds on the clock over here so we can see the impact on the bar. But we now need to go and set this one up after the compiler is done running over here. So in that case, we're now gonna put our bar over here inside the bar slot and the text into the day text. Once again, we want to make sure that we have a clear naming convention as always, so if anybody else is going to work with us or is trying to find out what the heck is going on, we're gonna want to, most of the time, name things as they, yeah, how they really are. So when we now press play, our bar should decrease a bit after 1 second. So as you can see now, the day is going to be rather quickly over because our day only has 10 seconds. And once the day is over, we're gonna go back, or actually, yeah, we go back with the scale and we have day 2. So, and as you can see, we can do this like 100,000 million times to how often the integer over here is going to hold a specific amount of days. Good, so the day system works. I'm gonna bring this one back again to 300 since that is probably the daytime I wanna have later on in my game, about 5 minutes. So you can basically do stuff like over the complete 5 minutes in a day, like gonna look for food, pick up things, hire guys, go to the merchant, try to, I don't know, find new stuff and so on. And all that content is going or has to happen inside kind of 5 minutes, I would say, before you wanna go into the next day and update everything accordingly. So far, so good. Do you guys have any questions about that? If so, then please feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'm gonna go and probably touch the next part over here. I'll give you a minute or two and then we go forward. No questions. That's awesome. Well, maybe not as awesome as I thought, but well, you get the idea. Probably not a bad one at this case. So the next part I want to cover is probably I want to go over is the game camera. So since we now have the complete system running about a day, how long it takes, and so on and so forth, we don't do any actions yet, but because that is going to happen later on inside some kind of a game manager. Probably we're gonna start to work on the camera over here. So I want to have a camera which is going to follow my little character, always stays where it is, like the distance to this a particular player over here. I believe I covered this in one or the other tutorial already, but we're gonna have to create this from scratch. By the way, if you create any scripts at all, make sure that you store them anywhere so you can always go back. Like if you start a new or later on, you probably have a kind of similar project running and so on and so forth. You're gonna have the possibility to go back into your, let's say, library where you can just pick the script you have written already beforehand, and once you are checking this one out, you're gonna be able to put this together over here. I'm gonna take a look if I have something similar about the script as well, so probably it makes it a bit easier over here. Otherwise we just yeah, try to cover or try to find a way how we want or how I want this to be set it up. So I know I had something like that already anywhere, but well, you know how it is. Sometimes you just lose track completely over here, and maybe I don't really find it rather quick over there, so it doesn't really matter. We can also write this from scratch. Doesn't, once again, really matter for me over here, I guess, but it would make life easier. Good, let's go into camera. So we want to have our camera targeting something, and so currently it's like, oh, anyhow, I'm still in 2D view. So the camera currently looks downwards from this point, and we want to actually, yeah, look like the whole time onto our our character. What we cannot do is we can't just take the camera and basically make this one a child of our actual character. Why? Because the camera would rotate strangely whenever we walk anywhere. And we don't want to have that. We want to have this like maybe a 45 degrees, always with a constant speed and stuff like that, something like that. Probably we learned this between views and so on and so forth. So in that case, I want to make sure that the camera once again follows like in a specific angle or a specific distance, just keeps that specific distance to the target itself. So I believe once again I had something about this, like I believe we had created something like that in the Paperboy series, I guess. So let me pretty quickly go into that. Probably I can really make use of that. And where did I get this? Where did I have this? Did I deleted that already? That would be funny. Just a second, guys. So we're gonna go in a sec further. Where do I got this? Hard to find. It doesn't want me to find it because I believe there we got some similar issue or something like that or basically I had the same some kind of a script which we were putting together over there, but I always lose ideas and stuff. I don't know where I got this. Oh no, it was not Paperboy. It was the. Oh yes, it was Paperboy. Of course it was. So maybe I find a cam follow script over here, which we can basically make use of, or I'm gonna make use of right now or in a sec. So I'm gonna open this one on one of my screens. Just double click, hope it opens anywhere. And then we go further with that. So I'm gonna put this here onto the side so we can take a look into this. Okay, that was a rather short one. Good, so I'm gonna create a new script right now and name this cam follow or something like that. And probably it's not the correct one, probably it's not a good one. Maybe we want to implement later on something like zoomability, but I don't think so. I don't think I need any of this zoomabilities over there. So what the camera does need is actually the script, so the cam follow script. We double click to open, and once again I'm gonna develop Visual Studio whatever. And hope it's opening sooner or later. Gonna try again. Anyhow, it doesn't react, and probably it will now open two of this, but we'll see. Gonna close that. Okay, there's one has opened now. Maybe there's a second one coming up. We'll see. So what we want to do over here is now, once again, we want to just have a simple follow script. So the camera is going to follow a specific target. And to do that, we need to put in our player actually to be the target. We could just take the transform of that, like the base of that. And this is going to be, let's say, our player target, something like that. So at start, we want to calculate the x and the z distance because we don't want to go over the height, and just so we can actually calculate the distance, and then we just update the distance based on that particular position, like from wherever we started. Probably we only do need the z. No, I believe we need both. Okay, so what we want to do is we gonna create two floats for a position x and a position z, or basically these are not the positions, these are more like distances. So we're gonna calculate the distance of x and z between those two objects, like between the camera and the actual player. So dist x and dist z. We also want to have like a follow speed, like how fast the camera should follow. Speed equals something like 4 maybe. maybe no typos. And we're gonna store a position in a vector3, POS. So in start, we now want to actually calculate the distance between 2 points, once again, between the actual camera as well as between the player target over here. So in this case, a dist x is going to be equal to transform.position.x. So this is the camera position, and we want to now negate this by our actual target. So the player target dot position dot x. We're gonna do the same for the z value. So I'm gonna copy this, paste, and rename this one to z as well as this one. Once again, I don't go over height, so I don't have any y value. It will stay as is. So we need to basically preset this anyhow. In the update loop, we want to make sure that we update constantly the camera position. So wherever we walk, we want to update that. First off, we want to make sure that we set the POS, like the first vector over here, .x to be equal to, we need to test this a bit, the transform.position.x, so left and right. And now what we want to do is we want to probably want to do this at first, and maybe we need to change that a bit. So next one is, we need to update this. Okay, now we need to do this different. In this case, we want to make sure that we take our player target and we increment our player target plus the actual distance x we calculated beforehand. And player target, of course, player target dot position. Dot position dot x. And we now increment this by the actual distance. So we keep basically the distance between the target based on this x value over here. Then we're gonna have like the y value, so y stays y. Once again, we don't go over and change pos y. And then we're gonna have like the z value or z value. So position z is basically the same as we do over here. Of course, we need to close the line with a semicolon. And then here we're gonna take the player target dot position dot z and increment this by our dist dot or dist z over here. Now we just want to put or retransform the camera's position. So we say transform the position is equal to vector3 dot lerp. So we try to lerp between those 2 points. Because of the speed, we can probably do some smooth lerping to positions. Well, where do we want to start from is our current position to the actual position we have calculated like beforehand over here, like this position vector, and now we put in the actual lerp speed times time dot delta time to basically smooth out the result as well as make sure that all devices are going to have the same speed over here. Don't forget to save. And now I want to make sure that my camera is actually, let's say, maybe a bit more far away. Maybe I can make this a bit more organized, like 35. Maybe this is going to be a minus 35 as well. So we have like a rather harsh angle. Let's see, maybe I want to make this more like looking a bit more downwards maybe, and lift it up quite a bit. We need to define that in front, so we need to make sure that we rotate this one as we like it and however we want the view to be. But maybe that is not too shabby overall. Maybe we can also go a bit more. No, we're gonna keep this like in the center, like so that the player is in the center of the view. I guess that's not a bad one. Once again, maybe we are going to lift it up a bit more over here so we can see a bit more of the scene at all. Something like that might not be too shabby. So maybe I'm gonna bring the character again a bit more to the center. Oops, like in the center of the camera view. Maybe like that. Not too bad. So I'm gonna have now a rotation x50 and a negative 35 in the y-axis. Good. I'm gonna save my scene and want to make sure that the main camera now gets my player as being the transform over here to follow. So whenever we are now going to click around, our camera should smoothly follow over here wherever we are clicking, and it's trying to keep track of that. If you want to have something like where it is a bit smaller or a bit smoother at all, or maybe a bit not too fast, let's say, something like 3 instead, like a speed of 3, you can also try to do this and see how it looks. So we're gonna press play once again and see if the lerp is going to be like a bit smoother in and smoother out. So as you can see, it tries a bit longer to match the actual position. You can always see this over here into the scene view, and we are good to go. We can walk around over here. We cannot go outside, of course, that's nice. We can still do our interactions if we want to. Let's see if that still works. Nope, it doesn't. Doesn't let us interact now. That's funny. That might... Oh, I believe we don't even get a debug line onto our enemy over here. So, but our enemy should have left now like 7 or 5 health. Okay, so we actually yeah, selected this as well, but I didn't put a debug line into this. Nice. So looks pretty good so far for me, at least. So I'm gonna have, or we gonna create, or I'm gonna create it now, the actual movement system by clicking. We're gonna be able to hit, you know, enemies over here. We should be able to trigger doors, as well as trigger the merchant to do some actual things over here, like, you know, like, yeah, trade items later on. What I want to do now is probably put some more planes onto the bottom so we don't have any gray spaces over here when we are walking around the scene, which has just that small part over there. So maybe the ground should be also, or might be also, part of environment later on, but for the moment I just duplicate this plane. So I'm gonna hit Ctrl D, snap it to where it has to be. Once again, it doesn't need to be movable or walkable at this point. We don't even need to take care of that. I just want to make sure that I fill the empty spaces so it doesn't look too shabby later on. Gonna make this one here going to be a 16, I guess, in the Z, 16 as well. And maybe I'm gonna do this like everywhere around the scene, so we're gonna have a nice feel that the game is not too small, I would say, or the area is not too small. Oh, that's a bit off. -28. Okay, and then I'm gonna take these ones, duplicate them, Control D for duplicate, and something is still wrong here. So I can also snap this directly to the point. I'm not quite sure why that happened, but doesn't matter, I guess. So gonna do the same here, just do a quick snap. We are good to go. So when we are now moving along, like when we are in the actual game, we probably want to make this a bit darker so we can see that we are not able to walk at this point. I still have this gray area over here, but I want to make sure that I'm like not seeing anything at the horizon later on. Like this one is also gray here, so probably I'm gonna increase that even more. Maybe there's another better way later on. Probably gonna make a terrain later on so we can just make sure we only move in the corresponding areas. Once again, I could also put just like one plane like below, and then just make sure that this textures are going to tile accordingly. So maybe putting a small script together which is calculating the tiling based on the size of the scale of the ground over here. So, but basically that's everything I wanted to cover in this live stream. So we now have a follow camera. We are able to move along. We have a day system, which is actually counting down the day or the day time for us, and of course increases after the 3 minutes or 5 minutes, I believe it was. And you can see, okay, it's actually doing something over here, so it's reducing over time. We can wait for that. You know this already, and then the next day will start all over, and so it will automatically fill the bar again, and so on and so forth, just based on the x scale variable we created beforehand or calculated, because we just took our current time and divided that by the maximum possible time at a day or from a day. So that's everything I wanted to cover. So if you have any questions, now is your second chance over here. I'm gonna give you once again a minute to think about it. Probably type something inside the chat. If you have any questions, feel free to send them now inside that. If you are not inside the stream, feel free to go check down below in the comment sections and just ask your questions over there if you want to. No questions so far. So I want to thank you all guys for joining my stream over here once again. I hope you guys enjoyed the session and you learned a lot again. As well as once again, feel free to check out my free PDF about 3 strategies how to finish your game, as well as check out all my online courses available inside the description box down below as well. Check them out. Maybe one course or the other is for you, and you can learn something from it as well. There are some beginner courses as well as some advanced courses inside, so just check them out and see if one of these are going to fit your needs. Yeah, sorry about that a bit here. No worries about it. You can watch the stream later on. But still, thanks a lot for tuning in. Also, thanks a lot for tuning in, Yanni and all the other guys. Shame on me. Oh, yeah. Oh, you're on yourself. Yeah. Awesome. So, yeah, guys, enjoy your day or evening or whatever time you are currently at. Stay healthy and, yeah, see you probably in the next stream. Have a good one and bye bye.